Okay guys, so what we've got here is a 96 Honda Civic 1.6 liter. I'm sorry, it's a 97. And it was stopped on the highway, and I got it in. The battery's dead from the flasher, so I charged the battery, and the engine cranks over, no start. So it's a cranking engine, no start. But the engine sounded a little odd. So the first thing I did was I took these 3 screws on the distributor cap loose, and I took the distributor cap off and set it to the side, and I had somebody crank the engine, and I noticed that the rotor right here was not spinning. So that was a clue that that we had a timing belt issue possibly. Now I know they had a timing belt put on this car about 2 years ago, but the other thing I noticed was the dipstick hadn't. So we do have a little bit of concern there. In the meantime, I've taken the 5 bolts that hold the valve cover. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I've got the valve cover off. That was the first step. And then I had to take the power steering pump off. I'll set it back here so you can see. So there's a bolt in the top of the power steering pump right here. And then on the back side, there's an adjuster. Take those 2 bolts out. Took the line off the power steering pump reservoir and set them both to the side. Alright, that exposed the top cover. So I took the 2 bolts that hold the top cover out. There's one here and one here, and then there's a little bit of lip right there on the outside of the cover. If you can see, you got to just kind of wiggle that out, and now the cover is out of the way. So I got the belt off of that. The next thing was a tensioner pulley that sets right down here. If you can see that, there's I took the nut loose that holds this idler pulley on right here. I took the nut loose first, and didn't take it off, but I took it loose, and we're going to set that back on there so we don't do exactly that and lose it. We just did. Took that loose, and then at the top is an adjuster screw. You just screw that out. It loosens the belt. Took the belt off. Then there's 2 bolts. I went ahead and slid the pulley off of the shaft. And then there's 2 bolts that hold that to the block right down here. Pretty easy to get off. Not a real problem at all. That let me get the belt off the air conditioner. Then we went down over here, and on the alternator, right there is 1 bolt. I loosened it up. Kind of hard to see. Actually, it slid over because I just loosened it up. And then once I loosened that, I was able to pull up on that belt, which draws the alternator in, and then that belt is off. Now I've jacked the car up a little bit at this point, and you actually don't have to jack this car up because there was a plastic shield right here that I took loose. 2 little plastic screws, and I took that out of the way. And the next thing I'm going to do is I've got a holder that's going to fit in this hexagon shape right here. If you don't have one, you can go to AutoZone, and it's on their tool rental program. And I'm going to hold that crankshaft while I take that 17mm bolt out of the center. If the crank hasn't been off recently, it's virtually impossible to get that center bolt out without that holding tool. So the holding tool requires a breaker bar to hold it. So you'll need to rent their breaker bar and the holding tool at AutoZone. I'm going to go ahead and pause this video while I get that pulley off, and then we'll come back and show you how to take the cover off, the lower cover. first learn how to unlock this thing.